My next claim is that LGBTQ identity is a social contagion. Hello?
I guess I'd like to start off this conversation by pointing out some other people that share your opinion that LGBTQ plus people are a social contagion.
I didn't say that. I said LGBTQ identity is a social contagion.
Yeah, because that's a huge difference.
Just in case you don't know, contagion is the communication of disease from one person or organism to another by close contact. So in this case, what Michael is arguing is most people identify as LGBTQ because they have been around people who also identify as that. So they now think it's okay to also identify as such.
I think it's a major difference, yeah.
Yeah, you know who else also would agree with you?
I'm guessing you're going to say Hitler or something.
And all of his friends. Yeah, you're right. Good job.
Do you know Hitler also drank water?
Okay.
Do you drink water? Do you drink water? Be honest.
Do you want to know how much water I drink? Is that really the topic of this conversation?
Well, no, but it's a comparison between you and Hitler. And that's very scary, apparently.
Well, we're not talking
pertinent,
about
apparently.
Consumption of aqua. We're talking about ideologies.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And there has been a...
What she just did there is this thing people on the left will often do, which is, if you by any chance agree in the slightest with anything some extremely bad person like Hitler might have said in the past, that means you are 100% in support of what that person believed in. That's why Michael asked her if she drinks water, and Hitler also drank water as well, to prove that makes no sense.
Large uptick in people who share the opinion that certain ideologies, certain racial backgrounds are contagions, and there's a lot of danger in that. I am a nurse. My background and my education has provided me with the privilege of being exposed to people of all backgrounds, people of all belief systems. I think that if we're going to talk about social contagions, I think we should start off by the ones that have positive and negative impacts on society, because I could just as much say that hatred and bigotry are social contagions, that toxic masculinity is a social contagion. That
Are you saying that I'm a sort of pinnacle of masculinity?
No, I wouldn't say that.
All right, then I'm not toxic.
Perfect. Yeah, okay. I could also say a myriad of other things. When you say that LGBTQ plus identities are a social contagion, would you then venture to also say that you would like to see people like me and the rest of the people in this room eradicated?
No, that would be quite a leap.
Is it a leap?
I think so. I'm
Okay.
observing a pretty basic social phenomenon, which is that in the 90s, about 1 to 3% of Americans identified as LGBTQ. And then in 2012, about 3.5% identified as LGBTQ. Fast forward to 2020, it was about 5.5%. Fast forward to 2024, so really, really close, it was 7.2%. And now there's a number from NBC News, says that 30% of Gen Z identifies as LGBTQ. So I guess my observation is just either there's something in the water turning the frogs gay, or there's something,
Jones. Okay.
which actually, oddly enough, there was a Yale study that kind of proved that, but it's a topic for another
Luckily,
time.
they got rid of the DEI program at the EPA that was turning the frogs gay.
That's good. That's good. The EPA also discovered that. We're getting sidetracked. Either there's something in the water turning the frogs gay, or there's something social and cultural going on that would lead to that huge increase in the number of people. There was a study just came out of University of York yesterday that showed a 50-fold increase in children who think they're the wrong gender over the last 10 years. How do you explain that if it's not a social phenomenon?
That's exactly where the social contagion Michael is claiming comes into play. Because if you look at the life of most young persons who identifies as LGBTQ, there's something you will quickly notice. Either one of their family member also identify, or someone around them does too. So you then wonder if they were socially influenced by that person around them.
I would love to speak to that actually, because one of the jobs I've worked as a nurse is as a nurse at a summer camp for trans teens. I've worked with hundreds of trans teens. I think that when we're talking about how people identify, how comfortable they are to identify the way that they identify, and their ability to assert themselves in that identity, the social environment that surrounds them can either hinder that or allow them to embrace themselves.
So are you saying, I'm trying
Can I
to
finish my point, please?
I'd like you to, yeah.
Thank you. When we are talking about people's ability to assert themselves and their identity, if they are growing up in a society that tells them that they don't exist, that their marriages don't exist, that they're a social contagion, do you think that psychologically that person would feel empowered to assert
they're not
themselves?
a social contagion. The fact of identifying as LGBTQ is a social contagion.
You can go back to semantics all you want.
Semantics means meaning. So if we want to understand what we mean, we actually do have to delve into semantics.
I'm going to go back to my point.
Let's try.
She keeps on making the mistake of misquoting him by saying the person is a social contagion. I don't know if she is doing that on purpose or she just doesn't understand him. What he is saying is identifying as that is a social contagion, not the person.
If someone is surrounded by people like you who are saying that their identity is invalid, that their existence isn't valid, that their marriages are not valid.
No, I don't say their existence isn't valid. Who would say that?
Do you think that that allows them to be in an environment where they feel empowered to do so? They feel empowered to be themselves, to admit to society around them, this is who I am.
Yeah, but that isn't who they are. If a little boy says he's a little girl, he isn't really a little girl, he's a little boy. And I think it's actually very harmful to tell a little boy who thinks that he's a little girl that he's really a little girl.
Why?
And my evidence for this would be that transgender identity, which has skyrocketed, especially among young people, is tied to vastly higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide. The transgender suicide rate, as I suspect you know, is between 32 and 50%. You are flipping a coin. If you tell someone to embrace his transgender identity, you're basically flipping a coin with his life. And so I think that's very harmful to that person, and it's not founded on human nature.
I would shake your hand, but I don't really want to.
You don't want to. All right, that's okay.
She is a typical liberal, very emotional. And if you have a different belief from theirs, their emotions gets triggered and they automatically assume you are a bad person. Speaking of the suicide rate among trans people, transitioning doesn't save them from being suicidal. There has been numerous studies disproving the trans activist claim that gender transitioning saves lives.
Because initially the prompt was about LGBTQIA identity, and we're really hyper-focusing on that trans identity.
We can do any identity.
Absolutely. So I kind of just want to speak from my own anecdotal experience. I'm not here to debate, change anybody's mind. What I can tell you is that pre-transition, all of the mental health issues I had, all of that was starting before I transitioned.
Yeah.
Since I transitioned, started my hormones, have done all the right things, gotten my gender affirming care, all of these issues, problems I've had have alleviated.
How long ago did you do it?
About a year ago.
Yeah. That is also backed up in the scientific literature that there can be short-term improvements to mental health, or even a short-term euphoria. But the long-term, I mean, people are laughing at this.
Well, because it's ridiculous.
Well, okay. So in 2019, the American Journal of Psychiatry published a study giving the largest data set on
so
transgender
anecdotal
identity.
Experience doesn't matter at all.
It does, but it doesn't matter as much as data, because data is just a lot of anecdotes, many. So it looked at much longer term analysis, and what it tried to argue was that the transgender hormones and surgical treatments did improve outcomes on anxiety and suicide and depression. But they had to issue a correction very quickly because there was a methodological error, and when they admitted this.
I'm not interested in talking about policy. I'm really talking about.
But I'm talking about science, not policy.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm sitting here in front of you as a trans woman who is telling you that every issue I've had before, mental health problem before I started my hormones, is gone.
What this person is trying to do is make a conclusion that since transitioning, there hasn't been any problems of suicidal thoughts, anxiety, or any of these problems he is claiming. However, there are two problems with her claims. One is, this person is just an individual in the millions who have transitioned. And two, the transition was just a year ago. The studies he is quoting carry result from over 5 years after transitioning.
And I'm telling you, statistically, it's going to come back.
You're wrong. Like you can't predict the future.
The science.
Like I don't know.
I'm not predicting the future, and maybe you'll be one of the lucky few. I guess my point is this: if you look at not just one anecdote, but actually your anecdote actually fits into the scientific literature.
It doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't. I've been a trans person since I was a child. I've experienced the gender dysphoria my entire life. And the second I got on my hormones, everything started improving.
You started doing it a year ago.
About a year ago. I've also been socially out as a gender ambiguous person since I was 22.
Sure.
You don't know anything about my medical history.
I'm not claiming to know anything about your medical history.
You are trying to claim that you know about my medical history.
I certainly have not. When have I done that?
Then in the future, I'm not going to be okay.
No, I'm not saying that either. I'm saying statistically, you probably won't. I'm saying that the largest data set.
How many trans women do you know? Trans people, I'd love to know.
Apparently not enough.
Clearly not enough, babe.
What I'm telling you, and I know you're talking over me because you don't want to hear this, but what I'm telling you is the largest data set, the largest study ever conducted to follow the long-term outcomes of transgender identifying people found that not only did their suicide rates and depression not improve, their anxiety actually went up. And so what I'm telling you is, if you're feeling a kind of euphoria that pretending that you're the opposite sex has made you feel better.
Pretending I'm the opposite sex.
Yes, you are pretending. And I don't think that it's respectful to lie to people.
I'm pretending pretty good, don't you guys think? Yeah?
You're not pretending. You're not.
I think everybody else here.
I think you might be really angry with me for telling you the truth.
I feel like I'm remaining quite.
You're remaining relatively calm, but I think you're
angry.
I think you're probably not thrilled that I'm telling you that you're not really.
I don't care.
Do you not? You're sitting here talking to me. It seems like you care a lot.
I'm here to give context to a conversation that you clearly know nothing about. You don't know any trans. Do you know personally any trans people? You never really.
I know a number of people who identify as trans.
And so they're not.
I know some who have gone back the other way because it was ruining their lives.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, you'd love to hear about the people who regretted it.
I'd love to hear who they are.
Oh, I don't know. I was just with a couple of them the other night at
what are
a
their
political
names?
party. Well, Chloe Cole would be probably the most famous example.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen her work. She's doing much better now. I've interviewed a number of people who have detransitioned on this show. The only reason I'm mentioning the detransitioners is you might think that it's really nice to affirm you in your delusion that you're the opposite sex.
It's not nice. It's I have to do it. If I didn't start my gender hormone therapy, anything like that, I wouldn't be here right now having this conversation with you because of gender dysphoria.
Because what? You would have...
I just think that there are a lot of avenues that could have happened if I didn't start my hormone. I just don't think that the broadness that you're bringing to the table right now is useful.
I'm bringing scientific specificity and logical precision.
You've met a detransition person, but I'm asking if you know a transgender woman.
I know people who identify as transgender.
And how are they doing?
Not well.
Really?
Yeah. And statistically, it's a good line. That was off camera. They said because they know me. Statistically, 32 to 50% of people who identify as trans will kill themselves. And that's really bad. And I think that if there's anything we can do to improve that number... But do we know about their access that they have to hormone therapy? Do we know about any access to medical care? Yeah, it doesn't,
what is it?
It doesn't improve. That's what I was trying to tell you about the study.
I'm waiting.
The suicide rates don't improve after they access all of that supposed care.
Where did you get that from? I'm very interested.
From the American Journal of Psychiatry.
Then one thing people never talk about in the world of gender transitioning, especially in the medical part of it, is the benefits these medical institutions get. There is a very huge incentive to promote gender transitioning by those medical institutes, which then tell you they don't care about those individuals. Imagine being put on medications for the rest of your life. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video so far, like it and subscribe to my channel. This is Beyond-Tainment. Bye.